By the way, there'll be spoilers in this video, but I assume you already knew that. So Halloween Kills opens right away with a retcon and bringing back Officer Hawkins, who presumably died in Halloween 2018, who was one of the people responsible for bringing in Michael Myers. And when I say he presumably died in the last movie, that's being very generous. Because he was stabbed 3 times in the neck, then the scene played out for an additional 3 minutes as he was bleeding out, they ran him over with a freaking car, and then he was laying there for however long until a random NPC shows up and finds him, and plugs his holes with a scarf. I'd assume the blood loss alone would kill him, but I feel like the car should have easily pushed him into the finish line. Then the cop wakes up, and the first thing that comes out of his mouth is so cheesy and on the nose.
He needs to die, and I'm the one that's gonna get him.
And I'm the one that's gonna get him. In a wheelchair. I wouldn't expect that to be the first thing on his mind on the verge of dying, but alright then. Then the movie cuts to a flashback of a young Officer Hawkins bringing in Michael Myers, and that whole situation was pretty painful to watch. Officer Hawkins and his partner decide to check Michael Myers' house since he was somewhere in the area. While clearing the building, Hawkins' partner goes into the upstairs room in which Michael originally killed his sister, and for some reason, he decides to dramatically look out the window like Michael until getting jumped by him. Like, excuse me? You are tracking down a dangerous killer and you're going to put your guard down in his house without fully clearing the whole building? That's pretty wild, and then Hawkins comes in and during this hostage scenario, he shoots his partner in the neck, which causes him to pause and stare at his partner while Michael casually walks out of the room. Like, okay, at the very least, you could have shot Michael after having shot your partner, but since he didn't, it made his death feel so stupid and pointless. After gawking at his partner for a couple seconds, Michael slowly walks down the staircase while Hawkins tries to shoot at him a couple feet away and misses. Overall though, this 12-minute opening scene is kind of pointless given that Officer Hawkins is hospital-ridden for the entirety of the movie. This introduction makes it seem like he's going to be the main character, although that's not the case. And I don't know how he can be the main character in the next movie if his leg is shattered, but oh well. Going back to present day, the writers introduce us to a big batch of disposable characters that may or may not get killed throughout the movie. This combined bar scene is about 10 minutes long and features no main characters, so it feels kind of directionless since the POV keeps changing around. Also, during this whole scene, the writers keep doing exposition dumps and recapping what happened in the original Halloween by having the survivors of Michael's attacks tell their stories. Which is really boring considering that all this information is redundant and the audience already knows everything that they're saying. There's not much else here to really break down, so let's jump over to Michael Myers escaping Laurie's burning house. For this scene, there is one really funny moment that I have to point out. I find it really funny that there's a firefighter shooting water at Michael as if he's some hot girl washing a car. Everyone's wielding axes and saws while this guy is making Michael wet. And I'm surprised the man didn't even flinch when Michael was coming at him. He had one purpose in life and he did not disappoint. And that's it for this scene, I just needed you to witness that. 20 minutes go by, nothing really happens. We have Michael randomly killing some people, the continued bar scene, Laurie going through surgery, and introducing a gay couple living in the Myers house that will be relevant later on. Now we are finally with some of our main characters, Karen, Laurie Strode's daughter, and her granddaughter, Allison. In this scene, the cops are interviewing them about what happened in the last movie, and yet again, like the bar scene, we are getting boring recap that adds nothing of value. We're almost halfway through the movie and only one substantial thing has happened, which was a 2-minute scene. Going back to the interview though, the cops tell them that Michael survived the burning house, and Allison's reaction is so stupid that it's downright hilarious.
Michael Myers is alive.
What?
Her screeching what out of nowhere honestly made me start laughing. That added with 2 back-to-back whip transitions makes this borderline a comedic scene. What were the writers and editors thinking for this? So moving on, the group of characters in the bar decided that they need to take matters into their own hands, because apparently the cops can't, which we'll go into later. Allison decides to join this crusade, and there are 2 groups. One car with legacy characters, and the other with Allison, her boyfriend, and his dad. For the legacy character group, they come across some kids and park their car to tell them to go home. While they are parked, Michael jumps on the roof of the car, and the nurse lady gets out with a gun and then disappears. Like, did she just run away while Michael was on the car killing her friends? Then she conveniently reappears when everyone in the car dies and tries to kill Michael? I'm just confused by the course of decisions here. If she was out of the car and Michael was sitting on the roof, then she could have easily shot him, but didn't and ran away until changing her mind and coming back? And it didn't even matter because she misses all of her shots while Michael is sitting still in the front seat.
What are you aiming at?
That's a really embarrassing sequence, and she has the most pathetic death I've ever seen. Michael even stares at her in awe as to how stupid that whole scenario was. After that shit show, the last survivor of the group runs away and makes probably the most stupid decision you could possibly make. Michael is walking after her while she is sprinting, and this girl is like, "Oh god, he's going to catch me. I need to hide," as if he was going to catch up to her while she was running away. It doesn't matter though because she miraculously survives, and I thought she was going to die for making that terrible decision. This whole situation in which Tommy Doyle, another legacy character from the first movie, tries to gather the community to catch Michael seems like a bad idea. Mostly because you have a bunch of inexperienced idiots running around trying to find a serial killer, and as a result of that, more innocent people die. You would think Tommy would feel half responsible for these casualties because they clearly aren't fit to catch him. The movie tries to justify this logic by the sheriff department not doing a good enough job to take Michael Myers down. Surely if there was a crisis on this magnitude, you'd be able to get support from other towns nearby, but that's not the case I guess, and the cops are apparently just inept in this movie. Especially since they all seem to be in this hospital and not patrolling the streets. Fast forwarding ahead, we have a scene where there's a couple in the Myers house, and Michael drops in to say hi. The scene starts in such a dumb way in which Michael knocks on the back door, the character checks the backyard, and closes the door without locking it. I'd be scared to tell if some random person is on our back porch knocking on the door, but this guy forgets to lock it? Are you kidding me? And then surprise surprise, Michael just waltzes on in. Also, the dialogue between this couple is so cringy.
Big John?
Yes, Little John.
How can I take them seriously when they're calling each other Big and Little John? It honestly just feels like the writers are trolling us at this point. While clearing the house, Michael gets the drop on Big John and kills him. Sag, Big John, you'll never be forgotten. Press F, my brothers. So yeah, Little John comes in and finds his body and is just too devastated that Big John isn't in his life anymore and decides to let Michael kill him. Yikes, that sure was a scene that the writers wrote into this movie. Going back to the hospital, some unknown crazy guy broke out of the bus in the first movie and randomly wanders in and everyone is like, is that Michael? He even walks past some security guards who you'd think would be aware of the fugitives on the loose. Also, wouldn't they be checking him out if there's a massive deep cut on his forehead? Then people rapidly come to the conclusion that it is in fact Michael Myers, without anyone really getting a visual on him.
It's Michael.
Michael!
Which, how could anyone who did see him identify this 5-foot guy as being Michael when he should be like 6 feet tall while wearing a jumpsuit and a mask? But I guess the police didn't give any form of description of the killer on the loose? So anyways, this ends up starting a mob, and to be honest, I don't know why the hospital is so damn crowded. But whatever, now there's a horde of human zombies running around the hospital chasing after quote-unquote Michael Myers. There's even a funny moment where Karen is running up a stairwell with a cop, and one of the hospital workers yeets her ass onto the ground. Like, what are you doing? That was so unnecessary. She ends up catching up to the mental asylum patient, and her grand plan is to lock him in this hallway. To which, he gets cornered and everyone starts banging and destroying the windows like animals. The movie basically makes the statement here that evil is corrupting this town and is driving people to do irrational things. It turns into a cringy, ham-fisted message of mob mentality being bad. But the fact that literally everyone is doing this so blindly is pretty shocking and idiotic. I feel like most of these people would just let the cops do their job and detain him, given that there's a ton of cops already in the hospital. But nope, the mental asylum patient gets scared and jumps out of a window. Tommy runs up to the body and is like, "What do you mean? How do we know if it's not him?"
He's always worn a mask. How do we know it's not him?
Like, I'm sorry, but this scrawny little man is not Michael Myers. Then the cop yelling over his body says this.
Now he's turning us into monsters.
Thank you, writers. It wasn't obvious enough that everyone was acting like deranged psychopaths. Especially after Laurie Strode said this.
It's what he's done to this town, these people.
decent people.
So I don't know why the writers had the need to tell us that twice, while it was very obvious what the movie was trying to say. So after that egregious sequence that offers nothing of value to the overall movie, we have the last group out looking for Michael Myers. While trying to find him, we finally have a smart moment. A round of applause, everyone. And that smart moment was that Lonnie, a random character in the flashback who ran into Michael as a kid, tracked Michael's trail of crime, which leads back to his original house. Congrats, man, that was half smart. But then when they get there, he decides to Leroy Jenkins' ass into the house alone and dies right away. So this man was smart enough to put together some clues, but is simultaneously brain dead enough to the point of running into a hostile house containing a mass murderer by himself? Also, why is Lonnie hunting Michael with his son? This does not seem like the best father and son activity to be doing.
Dummy, you brought your kid to the belly of the beast.
Dad, no.
Like, hey son, let's go out and kill ourselves Michael Myers. That sounds like a grand old time. When did the notion of parents wanting to protect their children disappear in the writer's room for this movie? Or, in general, taking teenagers/young adults with him on this endeavor? But hey, don't think about that. This just adds more characters to throw into Michael's kill count. So the remaining characters in the group, Lonnie's son and Allison, enter the house and look around for Michael. Lonnie finds his dad obviously killed, and Michael jumps out of a closet. And yet again, the character has about a 10-second reaction time and doesn't shoot Michael as he's approaching him. Lonnie only shoots his gun until after he gets pinned, which is very in fashion for the movie at this point. The audience should already know that Michael is invulnerable, and you don't need to compromise the intellect of every character to save this reveal for the end of the movie. Allison hears Lonnie getting rolled by Michael and runs in with her shotgun, which obviously gets bashed away. Why do these characters even bother to use guns at this point? Then the movie falls into the trope of the antagonist being able to kill the protagonist, but instead throws them away to safety. If that was any other character, Michael would have disarmed them and then stabbed them to death. But nope, plot armor prevails against the almighty Michael Myers. Moving ahead, Lonnie slowly gets killed as Allison just screams at Michael for a full minute, until getting picked up by him, and just before she is about to die, a Deus Ex Machina Karen shows up to save her life. This movie actually just did 2 movie tropes in the span of 2 minutes. Congratulations, writers, truly amazing writing here on display. Karen then takes Michael's mask while he was stunned on the ground and is going to lure him into a trap. I don't know why she didn't just impale him in the head with the pitchfork, but whatever. For the trap itself, it all plays out logically, and then a twist reveal happens in which Michael can't actually die. Which I assumed was kind of common knowledge, given that the original Halloween ends with Michael getting shot 5 times and falling off a 2-story balcony and surviving. Through all the exposition dumping in this movie, I guess all the characters forgot about that massive important detail. However, the writers in Halloween Kills act like Michael being unkillable is some groundbreaking revelation when we already know that's the case, and everyone should too. At least for the fire in the first movie, it was plausible for Michael to burn away into ashes, but for the trap at the end of this movie, some bats, knives, and guns should theoretically do nothing against him. So yeah, that all happens and Michael teleports behind Karen while in the Myers house and kills her. I'm not going to bother questioning how Michael made it over there so quickly, but yeah, that just happens. Also, by the way, if you're confused why I haven't even talked about Laurie Strode throughout the whole video, that's because she's been sitting in a hospital the entire movie. Great job, writers, for sidelining one of your most interesting characters. I don't know why they made it to where Michael gets a practically killing blow on Laurie in the first movie of the trilogy. So now the only logical outcome is for her to be bedridden in a hospital. If anything, it's still going to be contrived in the next movie if she's fine and is able to fight Michael again. Same thing for Officer Hawkins, who was also in the hospital all movie. There are some stupid aspects in Halloween 2018, but I think Halloween Kills goes off the rails from the sheer amount of stupidity in the movie. Let me know what you thought about the movie in the comments, and make sure to check out my other Devoid Logic videos in the end screen.